Romeo and Juliet are extremely famous fictional characters, household names, but they are fictional characters. It is a fundamental mistake to approach this play in terms of their interior or authentic emotional experience. They are fictional. They are not real. Let me put it another, more graduate student way. They are effects created by the language Shakespeare uses to create them. They are byproducts of particular kinds of stylistic choices. This is true. And in fact, their character arcs, Juliet's and especially Romeo's, are about the change in their language. Romeo enters, as our critics have pointed out, stuck in shop worn, outmoded, highly ornamental, but dead, fake, out of not even in fashion, like done to death, played out Petrarchanism. He is speaking those Petrarchan oxymorons that, and actually in late Elizabethan England, people had been doing for too long already by the mid to late 1590s when this play premiered. It is He is speaking in a terrible derivative way. His language then moves to something that is still highly ornamental and lyrical and often rhymes, but feels fresher, feels more authentic. Is that because he is now feeling real love? We've got that backwards. It creates the impression, the change in his language creates the impression that it's real. His language has become more convincing. It is not tied to authentic feeling. There is no Romeo to feel these things. Instead, Shakespeare moves from a worn out, hackneyed version of this kind of prettiness to a fresher look, ma, I can do it for real. It's a little less ornamental, but it's much less cliched. It feels more dynamic, and this creates the impression that the character is now really in love. He's no more in love with Juliet than he is with Rosaline because he doesn't exist. But the fictional character that were depicted, the depiction becomes more effective. Here, the important thing to see is that this effect is about contrast. It is about the change of his language. His language feels especially fresh because he's introduced speaking shop-worn, played-out versions of the same language. He comes in speaking cliches and things freshen up. This reads as a character change. This creates the change in the character. All the character is the language that constitutes the character. That moves, as things get darker and darker for him, to a progressively more restrained poetry. His poetry comes down as things get more somber. This creates the impression of maturation. It's in fact a stylistic maturation. The way Romeo talks matures, and this creates the impression that he's quickly going through really, well, a whole bunch of life stages in a few days, a couple weeks, depending. There's that jump, there's that gap and jump, where he walks out, he climbs out the window while his mother-in-law is coming in, and by the time the mother-in-law is ending the discussion, she's already heard that he's come back. He's already gotten a man to where it's gotten back to her before she entered, before he left. So there's a little hiccup there. Okay, this really comes into play in Act 5, Scene 3. The person who speaks in a shop-worn, outmoded, rhyming way is my man, Paris. Poor Paris, who's here as a foil, as a contrast to Romeo. If Romeo's language has evolved substantially over the 5 acts, and oh goodness, has it? Paris's hasn't. This is Paris, Act 5, Scene 3. Scene 3 from line 12. Here, speaking to Juliet, sweet flower, with flowers thy bridal bread I strew. Oh woe, thy canopy is dust and stones, which with sweet water nightly I will do, or wanting that with tears distilled by moans. The obsequies that I for thee will keep, nightly shall be to strew thy grave and weep. Oh,